Hello and welcome to Actual Play BALIKBAYAN. I'm very excited to be playing this game again. 2 weeks ago, these wonderful people and I made some really amazing characters, Tonio, Ezra, and Measure, and and we almost finished the city, so I'm really excited to finish that up and to see what we do in Goblin Town, because that's now in my head. That is what the city is called. It's just Goblin Town. I don't know what the people in power call it, but that's my head canon. How about you, Morgan?
I was like, where did you get the idea of Goblin Town? And I was like, oh yeah, the trash.
Yeah, the trash.
I forgot. Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm excited to be back. I don't really know what to say past that. It's hot. Hydrate. Ash, what about you?
Hi, I'm Ash. I use she, her pronouns, and yeah, I'm super hype. I've been like running things around in my head all week. So I'm going to be playing Tonio, who is a saint. They are kind of they're about like the experience of faith, which is really cool. And then I've made mine ergotism themed, which is so
Elaborate.
yeah, we're gonna have some hallucinations, probably gonna have some weeping necrotic sores. There's a lot of Tonya's all about like plurality, which is exciting to explore, like to have that, like because faith is so often monocular, right? So like I'm excited for a faith character who's about plurality.
Sure.
Jammy, how you going?
Hi, so Jammy, they, them pronouns. I made BALIKBAYAN, which is currently in beta, so I'm super excited to be playing it with the star cast. It's really exciting. All these characters. Honestly, after our last game, I was like lying down thinking about I was thinking about Measure and the bridge and how that scene played out. I can't wait to get into it. So and how everyone else got into it in our Goblin City. I also made sure to get the perfect Tilda Swinton picture for NPC.
Yeah.
You know, I saw that and I was like, what is that for? And then I was like, oh yeah, that's right, it's an NPC. I forgot about that.
Yep. Well, it's the perfectly generated
that's right.
Composite creation, right? Like yeah.
That's true. Yeah, also awesome. But yeah, so I'm really excited about today. So like Ash brought up, we're going to finish oh, sorry, that was actually Sean who brought up. We're going to finish generating stuff for our game. So we were in the middle of bringing up our setting elements. But before I get into it, I think it's best to just briefly summarize what our city is, our Goblin City. So basically, what we chose for our visuals is that we have gleaming high-rise structures. We have illegal libraries. We have communities built around trash. We have mutated flora and fauna, and we have a robot AI community. So to briefly get into those things, we have entire communities and sects that have a connection to the discarded. It's built around this idea. And so there's not a lot left to Earth. It's the detritus of the corpse civilization, and the illegal libraries have records of all these things that they don't.
Including records of how the single corp formed and the many corpses that it might have consumed or destroyed in its process, because the kind of belief that is crammed down everyone's throat is that, you know, there has always been just this one and there always will be just this one, and all of that nonsense. So
yeah, exactly, which is so real nowadays, right? Like this idea of like we believe in these monomyths. Yeah, super cool.
Like
and there's also
like the apple myth is like yeah, crazy.
Yeah, we always like having singular, which is what King George is taking advantage of for sure.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, right.
So this King George
plays so well against Tonio, right? And I think our collective desires to disassemble those ideas, but like particularly I love the notion that is so antithetical to Tonyo. So
Gonna be super cool.
I did have a thought, Sean,
Ooh.
about our characters.
yes.
Because we had my what connects us question. We talked about you knew me before I became a saint, and you know that so Measure knows that Tonyo is an amalgam of things rather than right and formed
as long as
from
that's still cool with
many.
you. That was my.
I just wanted to suggest that Tonyo doesn't know that.
Oh wow, that's sounds super cool to me.
I'd love to put that tension into the game, right? Where like
Yeah.
you know this about Tonyo that Tonyo doesn't know about himself.
Yeah.
Right. Just wanted to throw that out there. Does that feel cool to you?
That absolutely. And if ever I am saying something about Tonyo that feels like it's breaching your your player autonomy and anything like that, please let me know. But I think it's very cool.
I trust you, Sean, and I'm happy to negotiate, work through that. So that's cool.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I forgot to bring up, that's a good point, about our safety tools. So we definitely have script change if you want to check in and say pause. I'm actually not cool with this part being established about my character. That's totally fine. So we have script change. We also have our lines and veils. We can refer to that just to make sure. And it's a living document. I'll keep checking in on our lines and veils to make sure we're up to speed on it. And we also have our open door policy. But yeah, awesome. Okay, and then for the rest of our city, we also have bioluminescent flora and fauna. I remember I learned about grackles last time, so.
Oh, the grackle discussion. That was good.
You know, actually, like a couple days ago, I shared this meme that like in any HEB is like a grocery store here, so any HEB parking lot, there's always going to be grackles. And one of my friends is like, yeah, I knew them as the parking lot birds before they actually knew that they were actually birds that weren't just in parking lots.
They were just parking lot birds.
That's such a beautiful, like thematic, oh yes, parking lot birds.
Those the black ones that squawk a lot. Like,
I mean, doesn't that sound like a cyberpunk dystopian notion?
Yeah.
Oh, the parking lot birds, and yet it's not. That's our life. That's our world. What is cyberpunk, and what is actually just happening right now? I don't know that how many of us would win that quiz because the world is so upside down.
True.
I love that parking lot birds.
Awesome. And we also have. I just want to make sure that I get to play the Hierophant, which is a grackle that has 2 heads. I'm very excited about that. We also have discarded robots that carry the discarded memories and lives of those who have passed on. One of those robots are the ones who's connected to Ezra. And our gleaming high structures are where we're not allowed. But maybe someone from that end, because that's where the other end of the bridge hit. So maybe someone from there helped us. And of course, we have a false prophet. We chose that one from one of the troubles. I gave them a name, by the way, but feel free to change it. I named them Ala Ala because that's memory in Filipino, but we can change it.
Oh my God, I love their hair.
Right, yeah. I just had to.
Wow!
I want that hair.
Amazing.
Can I have like underlip bioluminescent hair? That'd be
yeah. How did you dye your hair? Undercut.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought it would really tie in well to our bioluminescent flora. So, but there you go. Pinterest is our friend. But yeah, okay. So that's where we are in terms of our city. And then so for our setting elements, so in belonging outside belonging games, most of the time, I don't want to say all belonging outside belonging games, but most of the time we choose certain things to help the elements really come to life at the table. So we made those choices for the enslaved, the corp, our magic, our fading, and we're going to get into the heart of the city and our allies. So let me go ahead and read this for us. So the city's heart is unknowable. Like many cities on Earth, this one was left behind to fend for itself. The city faced apocalyptic weather, vanishing resources, and an intense brain drain as our brightest and best left for growing colonies. but somehow the innate magic of the city struggled to survive. The heart of the city is sentient and it grows in power. But will it help us create a new home or seek birth in destruction? So the thing about the heart of the city is in any game of Balikbayan, it is as sentient as we want it to be. So I played in games where it was talking to the characters all the time. And I played other games where it was more like how one talks to a storm, right? So it's not really a conversation, because you'll notice that each of you have a regular move about interacting with the heart of the city. So I think this choice is pretty important, like how that will play
Very
out.
psychic maelstrom.
Yeah. Right.
So one idea I'd like to throw out there is if we wanted to go on the far side of the city being, overtly sentient, overtly able to communicate with us, the city, the heart of the city could be the thing that helped us build the light bridge. Like it could be the city itself that was on the other end of our communication to get here. And that would be like, there was full scale communication back and forth. Maybe we didn't know what or who we were talking to. Maybe we thought it was a human. Maybe we thought it was another elemental. Maybe we didn't even think about it. But that's like one notion, is that the heart is actually because we haven't defined who was our contact on the other side, which totally could have just been a person, a scientist, some elemental that somehow got left behind, anything like that. But throw that out there. I'm not married to it, but it's one possibility.
I'm really interested in speaking to communicating with the heart of the city through indirect means, so paraspacy or things like that, right? Like where you're like, oh, I have to work out what it's trying to say through interpretation,
Like
because of course
messages.
Yeah, things like that, where you're like, oh, I'm gonna it's communicating through like flights of birds and things like that, rather than like specific like verbal language.
Oh my god, it's like how bees dance to communicate to each other. Like they're like, I'm gonna do this thing to tell you where a flower is. Like,
yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, there's an indirectness and a requirement for interpretation.
I like that a lot, and I think if we wanted to make both of those things true, then we would treat the breaking of the light bridge like the Tower of Babel, like we were able to communicate with it directly. But now
that's exactly what I was about to suggest.
It's all interpretive now.
Yeah, I love that. Like it took all of its energy and power to just be able to bring you over.
Yeah.
And power the light bridge, and
now it's shattered. I dig that a lot. I think that's.
Yeah, I really
like it. Like maybe like it's the equivalent of like now it's like in a coma or sleep and trying to communicate through that barrier, right?
It's like
that's
frozen
why it's
in some sort of way.
It was weakened or hurt or we don't know, right? Like we don't know what exactly happened to it because the bridge broke, but like we just know that now communication through our old means is through light crystals. It's just nothing. I don't think we've answered any of its desires, but I do think we've given it a real freaking cool background.
Yeah, I'm just typing all of that. It's so good. Yeah, I like the idea of a broken heart. But I think that could also tie in really nicely with what the heart desires then, because now we know how we communicate with it. We know our history with it. So we have some choices. We could choose from and we can also like make up new ones. So we have strange new forms, the fall of man, to be reborn in fire, awaken sleeping dragons, to connect all living beings, eliminate death, or love everlasting.
I think the awakened sleeping dragons is kind of like going with what we're saying, because now it's like the heart is kind of like asleep, right? Right now it's like in a coma. So I don't know.
So it is its own sleeping dragon, right? Like it will return possibly if we can help it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can even say that there used to be more than one heart, right? Like there used to be like several of them.
Every city or like, we only play within the city, but it could be connected to other cities.
Or is it pieces of the same heart, like various like like it's all they're all one, but they're just various pieces of the same heart.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Very cool. Yeah. So what second desire really excites us?
I
have
kind of
wondered-
like Fall of Man, like, or something like really like Fall of Man and Reborn in Flame really like give it that
Oof.
Yeah, right.
give it that like, oh, is this a good? I don't right, like
Yeah,
give it that twist.
Yeah.
I will throw an argument out there though for Strange New Forms, because all of us changing
Oh.
into weird new things and all the
That's
creations that come
true.
out of it, and like the
And that can-
mushrooms and like all the
and that can have that sinister vibe in its own way. So
Yeah.
I'm down
Right.
with that.
Mhm.
I'm 100% down with that.
Yeah. I'm also leaning. I mean, I love being reborn in fire because we have the fiery apocalypse going on with our fading. But I like how Strange New Forms gives us like different ways this could play out. It could be fire. It could be mushrooms. We don't know. It could be
Fire
Evangelion. like
Hey, the mushrooms can set fires, maybe.
Yeah.
that.
Well, I mean,
too.
that's the thing when you have like this chaotic growth and like all of these creatures, like yeah, some of them could be destructive, some of them could be super dangerous, and
Mhm.
from the heart's perspective, that's all just part of this of growth and evolution, right? Death is a normal part of life, right? Like
Mhm.
creatures that you create that go rampaging, that's I don't know.
That's Duende talk right there. So we are getting
Yeah.
into it. All right. Excellent. Okay, so which one of these questions call out to us if we want to answer them, or if we want to wait through play? What is the connection between the elementals and the? I feel like we kind of answered this though, didn't we?
I think
We
we
kind of
did.
answered.
The
Yeah,
bridge,
yeah. Yeah, I think I feel like we already answered that first one. So if we want to answer any of the other questions, but I feel okay with where we are right now, actually, and we can figure out the rest through play.
And I really feel like why is interfacing directly,
Mhm.
and how does the heart benefit us? Like we haven't fully detailed that, but we have like an inkling, and I'd be
Mhm.
totally down with elaborating on that more in play. Like I kind of would love to know why directly interfacing with it is dangerous when we try to do it. When we're like, yeah, we need to like talk directly to this heart that only speaks in flocks of birds and strange shadow patterns.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if the mutated fauna is one of the main ways the heart communicates, right? Like,
like the pulsing of the bioluminescence.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Would it be
Ooh,
like in like Morse code in a way, or just like?
Yeah. I'm gonna type that down before I forget.
Pretty freaking cool.
I'm not gonna spell bioluminescent right, but I will fix it later.
Neither will I.
I like it. Yeah, very cool. I'm so excited to embody that as a GM. Okay. And then so the last one is our allies. I'll go ahead and read this out for us too. So our allies were not alone in this fight. Most humans and earthlings are content to continue living their lives, supported by the pain and suffering of elementals. Their blissful ignorance removes them from our harsh reality, but some choose to fight alongside us, placing their lives on the line. They help us build our rebellion and provide whatever help they can as we continue running away from the past and towards our unsure future. So when we talk about our allies, it could be connected to our NPCs, but that's not necessary. It could just be something else on our own. It could. We don't even have to super specify who our allies are unless we feel like it. But I will say, from the desires we choose, it depends if our allies are going to be really supportive and helpful, or if they could possibly
yeah, I see some options on there, like to become our new masters or to access magic, that sound like not so altruistic.
Yes. Just like, honestly, when I was designing, I kept coming back and forth on the allies thing. Like, do I want them to be a completely good setting element, or do I want it to? But I felt like it's better to offer the complexity of allyship, right? Like how it can be very messy, very easily. But yeah, so the desires we get to choose from, or we can make up our own again, are true equality, recognition, access to magic, galaxy-wide rebellion, make up for past mistakes, burn down the city. I have to put fire in every like other element, and to become new masters, like Sean said. Which ones are we drawn to?
I'm drawn to Galaxy Wide Rebellion.
Ooh,
That's really cool.
Partially because that sets up like a thing where we might be tools in their plan, but also like that sets up this again. It sets up a tension between their kind of like on a like empathizing with us, but also it could pivot to we are a tool for their end.
And they could very much see themselves as being totally aligned with us in that, right? Because we know that back on other planets there's other elementals that are still trapped, and like they may very well see it as like, yeah, we're all in this together. We want to go free everybody on every planet, right? But how that actually pans out and who actually ends up benefiting from it could totally shift. And then I like that ambiguity a lot. I like that could totally be aligned with us or not, and we just don't know until you get closer to it.
Yeah, I really like that. That's a good point. And Morgan, how do you feel like about a second desires or something that's like?
I've been reading them, just trying to figure it out. I don't know. I don't know. Burn down the city would be one that we need. To become new masters doesn't really feel like it fits either. True equality? I don't know. Maybe like. Oh.
That's a real ambiguous thing.
Yeah.
It's a real hard to define thing. Measure would say.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what maybe that's why the rebellion's happening.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
If there are allies, they are definitely not in the privileged caste.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Definitely part of the goblins.
The Goblin City.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I like that because like it could swing either way also, which I like.
Sure.
Yeah, very cool.
I mean, we have these incredible powers as elementals. Where does that fit in the scope of equality? Is that fair? We should have these powers and they don't.
Ooh,
what privilege do we have?
That was my thought. That's why I was digging it.
Yeah. Right.
It's again that same tension of like, we're on the same side. Are we though?
Yeah. I feel like this is kudos to you, Jamie, for calling out these ways in which coalitions form, and it's very, they might be like 100% aligned in the beginning or think that they are, and then as things develop, like sometimes there's fracture and schism, and that's why I think we've seen so many groups that have started with like really positive perspective and like really great people, and you don't know why later on they fell apart in a fiery mess. And it's often because these things that seem like they're the exact same priority at first get more nuanced and eventually diverge and schism.
It's that thing of like, why does the left always eat itself rather than like right. because like people who are hoping for a better future have to imagine a future. People who just want to keep things the way they are don't have to do that.
Don't have to imagine anything. Yeah. Right. They don't have to work out the details.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So on that note, our city, I think we're good to start.
I'd kind of like to ask that first question: who are our allies and how do they help us? Do we want to define that now? Do we want to say it's the goblin folks? Do we want to say it's someone else? I just kind of would like to a general sense.
True. Who we go to and who we talk to.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I think it may be the goblins. The goblins.
Feels right to me.
Yeah. The goblin religion folk that are not a religion, but also a religion. Yeah.
They're religious. They're spiritual.
It's like it's that kind of like spiritual, like you can follow, for instance, like a lot of like Buddhist practices without like believing in the meta. In the like metaphysics of it, right? Like I think it's that sort of thing.
I just envision like a practice that's so syncretic that it's like you're just pulling things from all these different places, and so like you could look at any one given thing and be like, that kind of looks like Judaism or Islam or whatnot. You're like, but then that's definitely not. But it's okay because it's all just sort of mashed together.
Yeah, I really love that idea. The idea that they pick up discarded ideologies would be kind of cute. So how do they help us? Like, do they help us hide? Do they help us scavenge for material? Are they helping us free more elementals?
I feel like there's definitely a hiding thing. That's definitely
that's what I was thinking too.
Feels-
Giving us shelter, helping us like hide from the corp, because obviously like they are by their nature I think they fit into the kind of social class where they're not necessarily criminals by definition, but they can
Right.
very easily become criminal. They're
Yeah.
a marginalized group that can very easily be criminalized. So like they have to put themselves at risk to help us.
Yeah.
But we are criminals by definition, by our very existence.
Yeah.
And so there is something to say of like, we're wanted and they may be able to help us, but that also puts them at risk, in danger in the process. Humanize them a bit more as we were looking at their like at their far end potentially awful desires.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, and I think we can definitely set up a phase for that, but I like starting out with the goblins. We can probably start the game near our trash. I like that idea.
Yeah.
This is our trash and no one else's.
Yeah. So we'll see. Yeah, okay. So with that, in terms of what I usually like to do for the first session is just feel out the characters, feel out the setting. Like there's not a lot of, I won't be bringing in a lot of the other mechanics, probably, we'll see, but I'd like to run through the main mechanics with everybody. So like most belonging anti-belonging games, the mechanics are really straightforward. It's a token-based economy, but it does encourage a lot of like for the players to like have as much narrative control as I do, right? I'm just here to play all the NPCs. I'm here to set up things, to ask interesting questions, but I will be asking you to also create the world and the circumstances with me. So each of you have strong moves, neutral moves, and weak moves, right? So strong moves are basically when you are able to really like take control of the scene or embody the best aspects of your playbook. So for example, each of you will always have use your elemental magic with blank blank. So like use it well. So our saint can use their elemental magic with unwavering faith. Our swan can use it with necessary cruelty. So it's up to you what that necessary cruelty means. So on and so forth. Our duende can use their magic with steadfast focus. So what that means is if you spend a token to use any of your elemental magic, the consequences will be less, like the price will be less compared to, because in the weak move, you can use your elemental magic to great consequence. Then I will ask for a bigger consequence, a bigger price to pay. There will be more of a complication, but you can always use your magic. I want to stress that, like your elementals, you can always use your magic. And back to the strong moves, you can also make what you hope for more real. So this is a good so for example, if this is just an example, if Morgan wants to spend a token to make their hope more real, Morgan can just describe who it is they see, right? And who this person is, how they're affecting Ezra, and that person will just magically appear in the story already, right? I really want to encourage people to be co-GMs with me in that sense, and that's what the strong moves really give you. Though you can, I would argue the weak moves also help you co-GM because you can make up problems for yourself if you
exactly.
Like.
Right.
So that's
we're still
really
creating
fun.
narrative elements. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, no matter what. Okay, and let's see. And a lot of these moves are open to interpretation, what they mean to you. So for example, detail a flaw or vulnerability for the Aswang. That could be in someone, it could be an emotional vulnerability, it could be a physical thing in a weapon. Like it's all very interpretative. It's all very open. Like what does it mean when the duende makes the machine and its magic sing in perfection? It could mean healing an elemental, it could mean fixing something, right? It's all open to interpretation. So the thing with most BOB games is the longer you play, the easier it gets to like interpret these moves, right? So don't feel pressured to get all of it in the first time we're playing today. So just feel it out. I'm here to like say, oh, maybe you're trying to do this. Do you think it would align with this move? Maybe, you know, that's also my role today. But yeah, and then so I'm going to skip neutral moves for now. I'm going to talk about weak moves. So weak moves are when we create delicious complications for you. So this is when things maybe do not go really well. So for example, oh, I do want to bring this up definitely for the Saint. One of your weak moves is invite the little gods to use your body for a time. So Asher will always be up to you what that means. Either I will play the little god, or maybe you will take on a different character. You will become the little god and play that out yourself, or we can go back and forth, whatever you feel like doing. But basically, it's like giving your body up to a little god in the area.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, everybody has the move given to the fading and feel mortal. So that could be when you're physically vulnerable, but it could also be when you're emotionally vulnerable, right? It depends on what that means. Like when you feel mortal, when you feel your magic fading, when you feel vulnerable, that's very open to interpretation. But yeah, you'll notice that you also always have a question to ask, either for the strong move and the weak move. So you can, for the weak move, you ask that question, you get a token when I or someone else answers that question. And in the strong move, you spend a token in order to ask that question and get the answer. Okay, any questions so far? Okay.
Great.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm here. I don't expect anyone to like be able to like hit the ground running. So it's totally cool.
Sure. I do not feel like you will abandon us.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. What move is that, Sean?
Yeah.
You figure it out. Clock is ticking.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
not the vibe I'm getting there.
Yeah. And so the neutral moves are they're there to flavor. They're just things you can always do. So for example, for our duende, lose track of time and focus on the details, ask a pointed question, describe a flash of inspiration. Like these moves always add a little flavor. They're always things you can lean on if you're not sure what the playbook is about or which direction you should go. They're like there to catch that for you.
I really love that we all have a move that's reach out to the city's heart, but then we do different things. To lose yourself, to hurt it, to see it clearly, right? Mm-hmm. Like I'm remembering there's a series of stories that have sort of reincorporated this particular kind of trope where like one person could see someone and one person could hear them and one person could talk to them. Mm-hmm. You know, for some reason they were a ghost or something like that. It doesn't really matter, but like it's multiple people all having to coordinate with each other to be able to understand. Oh, I see what they're doing now. Oh, I hear what they're saying. Oh, I can talk to, right? And I feel like that's sort of like, you know, the combination of the elementals to be able to interact with the heart. I love the notion that we can't really do it on our own, that we have to sort of combine.
It's like a multi-layered game of telephone.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And so and then it's up to you how often you want to reach out to the heart. But you can do it all the time, and then it could be like a subtle way, like especially the way we set it up, like to read the signs, to see those. That would be really cool. But yeah, okay, so those are our moves. The way you can keep track of your tokens is I have a little section for number of tokens. Just feel free to type in as you get them. We all start with 0 at the beginning of the game.
Very cool.
Okay.
It's almost as though we have to like create some complications in our characters' lives to start off with. Before, it's like all of the hard holder, love letter, problem moves, but you get to pick the things that are exciting and fun to you.
Yeah.
We also earn a token because of our lure.
Oh, that's a good point. That's right. I always forget to explain that. Yeah,
it's all good. So we each have one whenever someone ever asks a saint to call upon a little god, whenever someone asks a swang to if they're truly afraid of, and whenever someone helps a duende fix or create something. So
So, and that's one of the easier ways to gain a token, because it really encourages you to interact with each other and in ways that like brings out the themes of your playbooks. But yeah, all right. So shall we start with our first scene in the city? Get a feel for things.
Sounds great.
Yes. So what I would like to do to start off with is I'd like each of us to describe an aspect of the city. Like imagine that this is a far off, like Final Fantasy VII when you start off. Well, I know you start off at Aerith, but like imagine in reverse. So we start off.
Heist.
Yeah. I like how everyone got it.
Like so on top of a train. Got it.
Yeah. Got it.
I'm sorry, but I don't. But okay, I'll go.
No, that's okay. I will send you the video. It's really good. It's a good opening.
I only played Final Fantasy X. Yeah.
Oh, but it's a good one. That's a good one. So it's okay. That fake laugh in Final Fantasy X carried me through the years.
I feel like Final Fantasy X opens with a similar thing on Xanacon, doesn't it?
Oh, that's true though.
That was also like when it first came out, so that was like what, early 2000s. So yeah, I don't have any memory of it whatsoever, other than playing the soccer ball thingy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, I have mixed feelings about that. But yeah, no worries. So let's start with I'll go and describe the first part of the city. I think from here, the first thing you see from far away are the gleaming high-rise structures. You don't see anything else. Like it's just, we see all the buildings are lined with these shimmering neon lights that shift and move and pulsate. I feel that the corp has programmed the lights to shift in a certain way so that it sort of encourages everyone to stay calm, to stay in a certain state. Like it feels like it affects people who are nearby. But as we get farther and farther from the gleaming high rise, the lights get dimmer and dimmer, right? And we get closer to where the rest of us are. But yeah, and I'd like to ask, Measure, what do we see of the city?
So is it okay if I do a shot outside the city?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, this is still part of the city, but it's not part of the gleaming high rises. We see a street sign post, an old street sign post. It's faded. It's still physical rather than a hollow emission. It says Park and Broadway, and the letters are all faded. And on top of the cross, there is the two-headed grackle, and it's fighting. The two heads are fighting over an old bone, and they're like wrestling with it back and forth, and they're like, and one of them finally like whips it, like pulls it out. One of them, the left head, finally gets it, and it like cracks the right head on the beak with it, like, like haha, like mine, and it kind of like tries to turn away, like my bone, but it's trying to turn away from its other head, who just squawks like horribly loud, and as the camera kind of pans down, we just see like this pile of bones, right? Like of old bones, and they're mixed with all kinds of other junk as well. But it's clear that like this was the one good one, because there was tons of others there that like each head could have gotten, and they're all like little like rodent bones, right? Not like people, right? Like they're just and then they're sort of scattered in the detritus.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's really cool. And Tanya, what do we see of the city?
I think we see a couple of like teenage kids, and like one of them is wearing a ill-fitting, clearly like secondhand or scavenge like business suit, and the other one's in like the other one's wearing like a pair of overalls and a denim jacket or something, right? Like and then like a bandana on the head, and like they're like yeah, hyping each other up, and then the one in the like in the ill-fitting suit is like okay, and then we see them like do up their top button, tighten their tie, which is like slightly smudged or whatever, and then like walk across the street to the base of this like massive glass monolith, and they try and like walk confidently, swaggering under the streetlights, up to like one of the like big sliding doors on this thing, and they like get to the door, and like a large gentleman in a in a properly fitting suit, just is like, nah, mate, right? Like, just gives them the like, I see you. This isn't working, and just like puts up a hand, and the teen like looks back to his mate and is like sizes up whether or not he can take the bouncer and is like, okay, and turns around back to his mate, right, and then they like slink off into like a back alley where there's like a glowing raccoon running past.
Oh, so good, so good. Excellent, excellent. And so, Ezra, what do we see of the city?
I think we see the city. I don't know how it does sunset here, right? Like it does do this full cycle of all this stuff. Okay. I mean, obviously you got mushroom buildings.
The full
and, like,
cycle of all the stuff.
You know, the on off of the sun and the moon, like
Right.
Yeah.
We're ostensibly on Earth.
That's a
that
good question.
resembles- Yeah.
That's a good question because most
Yeah.
cyberpunk stuff we just see it at night all the time. So that's a
Yeah.
good question. Yeah.
I think this part is actually sort of like where we start going towards closer to the goblin city, as we've been like sweetly calling it, and we just see as the sun's setting just dust and dirt sort of like just like flowing through the streets themselves. These buildings that we have look like they're all sort of like stone or mesa or puebla or whatever. It just like sort of built like sort of on like a hill, sort of like on top of each other, with these mushroom stair steps sort of like down the sides of the building. And we see people just just walking along the streets, carrying supplies either in baskets or in their arms. You see various piles of trash sort of like forming together along chain link fences, or just sort of just tumbling down with the breeze as it's going by. But yeah, that's it's usually it's more of a cinematic shot of like what we see as we get into the Goblin City. And I love how we're calling it the Goblin City. And from there you see various like families and like parents like washing clothes in like a basin and like, you know, wringing them out and trying to like throw them over like one of the fences to let them dry. And like it's just very just a very cinematic shot of like how this corporate situation we have with this big old glass buildings versus the goblin situation not too far away.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I kind of like the idea, like maybe we call it Goblin City because there's this like remnants of a huge factory and like parts of the letters are left behind, but most of it's eroded. But what you see sort of makes Goblin, like those are the letters that are left. And so everyone is just like, this is Goblin City now.
Yeah, now you're forcing me to try and like immediately my brain like,
my brain was like, what is that?
What? How do you get what word when you take letters away makes goblin, or when you like break a letter in half? How do you? Yes.
I was gonna cheat and put like two names. You know those companies that have just two last names.
Yeah, Good Oil or something like that.
Oh,
like,
that's a good one. Yeah.
Some kind of yeah.
I like it. But yeah, and then so we see that, and so here in Goblin City, we can see that the fauna is softly glowing. We can see everybody is going about it, but there is this tension in the air, a happy tension, because they're about to put on a festival of some kind. There is a ritual that they are adhering to. So I want to ask our saint, what kind of ritual or festival are we about to have here in Goblin City?
Yeah, cool. I wonder if it's like a coming of age, like all of a certain like generation of kids are going to become adults. This is that like I think it's spring.
Mm-hmm.
And so like this is the time that it's like I like the idea that like this marks how old you are, right? Like everyone has the same like
we don't have individual birthdays. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially because there's like probably a large contingent of like people who are not connected to their family, the families in great ways or at all. So like, and there are more important things to worry about, right? So everyone just is like, cool, great, like, and we only really take it into account in this point where you're like, okay, you're an adult now. And yeah, I think there's some kind of like, the like central thing for this is like, is like a competition of like some kind of strength or some kind.
Ooh, yeah.
Because it tends to engender people people like seeing, potentially going, oh, that person's that person's doing quite well. Right, like they're likely to pair off as a result. So there's a show of like
Is there
prowess.
matchmaking that happens around it, where someone's like,
Well, I
"Whoa."
think the idea is that like they will do that themselves because of the competition, because of the like the showing of and the idea being that you should be able to like look at someone, the way that someone fights or runs or things like that, and go, oh yes, that's the kind of person for me. So
yeah.
it's about young virility, the virility of youth.
Yeah, I really I think as we see that, so we see these young people, they're all like measuring themselves up. We see like their elders trying to get them to dress up, trying to prepare them in different ways for the competition that's coming. But Measure, this could be hard for you because you have this elemental who's very close to you, who is the opposite of virility right now, who's fading, right? So when we zoom in a little bit and we see Measure and this other elemental, what do we see?
Trying to make sure. I want to make sure I'm not contradicting something I've defined previously. I think we know what we know about them is that they were sort of injured on the way here, and they have been weakened by that.
Ooh, I do have a few suggestions if you would like, but if you have ideas.
I have some ideas, but please hit me.
Yeah, so I was thinking it could possibly be a Dewata, because Dewatas are like all this power, all this pure energy. Like maybe they use the last of their energy to power through.
Nice. So they're sort of burnt out. I get it. I love it. So I think both of us, I have the art that I found on Pinterest by Abrar Khan, the last style Borg. I'm very excited about this. So Measure is, fairly cybered visually, like including their eyes are invisible, like their eyes are covered by these cybernetics. And I think we see Measure in like who was carved out of like a little bit of like order and not necessarily cleanliness so much, because I don't think the goblin area is necessarily dirty, but like everything has sort of been put where it should be. And so we have all of these like perfectly stacked paint cans that are all forming the legs of a table or the legs of a desk, and on that lies my fallen companion, who we should probably name. But I'm terrible at thinking of names in the spot, so we'll do it shortly. And Measure has like this sort of this cybernetic implant on their arm that kind of comes loose, and like a cable kind of snakes out of it and goes into like the neck port on their fallen companion. And we see across Measure's visor these like vital signs that are uploading, and it's clear that they're not good. It's unclear whether they're getting worse or getting better, but they're just not good. And so we just sort of see Measure, who like had very little expression up until this point. It seemed very methodical, just sort of like looks at like all this festivities and everybody happening, and then just decides, like, when they cut back, you just see like this very sorrowful face that they are like they really can't enjoy that while the one they love is suffering like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have an idea for a name if you like, because I know
Yeah.
names are like super hard. I kind of like the idea that the Wadas can usually use any form of the elements, but because they've used up most of their magic, all that they have left is the strongest one they started out with, which is water. So maybe their name is Alon, which means wave or the surging of the wave
I love it.
in Tagalog. So I think, what pronouns do we want to give Alon?
Oh, you were just doing you were just doing that one thing as I was doing the other. Let's give Alon she and they pronouns.
Right. So Alon is laying back and their eyes are closed and they're sort of singing to themselves. And you know this. You know that every time they close their eyes, they're imagining a beach. They haven't been to a beach in the longest time, but they dream about it often. And you know they do because in her sleep, she sometimes describes what she sees, but her eyes flutter open. And her eyes can't quite catch you. She can't quite see you. And she says, Measure, are you still there?
I'm here, Alon. Tell me about the shells, the shells on the beach again. And I'm having this very like dark city, beach city, or ocean city like idea, like that, like we have like one postcard or something like that like reflects that, like shows this, and so Measures like, yeah, how many, count them for me, how many shells do you see on the beach? And this is Measure's way of like trying to keep Alon cogent and like still paying attention and still like not just totally fading off into being into incoherence. So
yeah, and she smiles and closes her eyes. Oh, there's so many. Measure, I'm trying to, I think there's a dozen. I want to touch them. Maybe we can collect them. Maybe we can see our friends again. I really miss our friends, Measure.
I miss them too. I miss them too. And like I think we see like behind Measure like their workshop, which is all sorts of like mechanical contraptions that they have tried and sort of failed to make any significant progress with. And they look vaguely like some of the early imagery we had from the opening credits of the show of the light bridge, like when we saw us all come, like when the show had its like beginning credits to give the audience a sense of what this was. We saw us all traveling on the light bridge, and like it looks like a tiny version of it, but it's obviously like all put together with tin cans and broken parts, and like it's not functional. And Measure sort of looks over the shoulder and says, "Yeah, I miss them too. We'll we'll find another way to bring them." And I think if it's okay with you, Measure just gives this like, it's hard to tell because you can't see their eyes, but Measure just gives this like very pointed look at Ezra, who was the one, if we remember, who destroyed the bridge, or who Measure believes destroyed the bridge, rather. And like, Morgan, what are unless Jamie, you had a specific question.
No, I kind of like the idea that the camera moves and it turns out Ezra was there the whole time.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm there. Okay, cool.
I mean, you could be far off if you want. I think that, if you don't want to be in the scene, but
I like the idea of like you like looking right at someone off camera, right? But like they're not in the same room. We just cut to them, like you haven't looked at them in another place.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're looking to like what is the I don't know. Like you're looking out. Yeah, I like what Ash said. That's pretty cool. It's like you're looking and like the scene switches or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. So, Ezra, you can see that the festival is unfolding before you, but you're worried about something. You don't feel like it's quite safe. Why is that?
This is the festival for the mating ritual, the matchmaking. Is that right?
Yeah, the coming of age stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I feel like it's not safe.
Oh, so also any question I throw at you, feel free to like if you feel like answering a different one.
I
Let me
wanted
know.
to throw in a detail for that scene of like family elders trying to be like, no, this is our family marking, or this is the thing that we do, right? Like trying to reestablish the idea of like lineage or family, and like and as that as like there are traditions, but like they're quite new, like within like 3 generations or something. I think that's an interesting like
I love it.
thing of like, yeah.
I need to make a correction. I did find a note. Alon uses he him pronouns. Sorry.
Ooh,
So
sure, no worries.
I will fix that. In the thing. It does not change that scene at all. But it's just
Yeah, I like it.
cool.
I'm just trying to think why Ezra's there, but I guess it's just to observe more than anything. And then they're worried about what's going on with the ritual itself, I guess. I sorry, brain's not working at full capacity because he.
No. No, it's okay. No worries.
Yeah.
Do you want to say that the scene takes place somewhere else? Like,
no, it's fine since we established it as a scene. I'm just trying to puzzle piece my character into the scene. I think they're worried because they just feel like this sort of ritual itself just sets up expectations of like the binary or the code that shouldn't exist in our society at this point. And that
It definitely sets up like who's better than who, right?
Yeah. Like it's sort of like they believe it's like some sort of classic old tradition that like just needs to be burnt, and like very like monogamous as well. Like just why is this like this? Like so they're just like watching it. And I don't have a photo of the character yet, but I've been like sort of like running around my head. Maybe it's have y'all seen the TikToks of like this one Chinese designer that's like walking with her sister?
Yes.
Laura Wang, yeah. Because Ezra does dress sharply, if I remember correctly. Yeah, something where is it? A craftily crafted smirk and expensive clothing. I think they look like and I looked up who it was, and her name was Laura. It's 2 O's. Wang. So they look sort of similar to her. So
I love that so much.
yeah. Sean, you're very muted. I just saw his mouth moving.
Yes, I was just agreeing that is a great look.
And since Ezra has a sibling that lives with or works for the corporation, I was like, we'll just use a sister as the corporate one as a visual. So
I love it so much. That's so good.
I'll find photos and toss them in there later. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so perfect.
So yeah, I think they're standing there with like just shades of their eyes, just arms crossed, just observing what's everything that's happening.
Yeah, and I want to say like off in the distance, you can see that there's a drone that sort of wandered its way closer to the Goblin City, but you can tell like it's lost. Like it's a hollow news droid that's meant to only stay in the city and give off news, and it's giving off this small projection, and we can see your sister's face. Are we saying sister?
Yeah, let's go with sister.
Yeah, your sister's face, and they're receiving an award. You can see that they're like doing that whole like ribbon cutting thing, except this is a cyberpunk future, y'all, so it's like a holographic ribbon cutting, whatever, you know. Like
cut through it with a lightsaber.
Yeah. Oh yeah, let's just go all out. So
the code splices away from it. Yeah. It's all projected, right? It can be anything.
Yeah.
It's all images in the sky. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can see that she has recently, what do we call it? Like they just opened a new section of the city, a new sector that's supposed to be smarter. It's a sector of the city that responds to the desires and the needs of the people who
It's almost
go
like
in
a
and out
smart
of
house
it.
situation where like everything is like electronic and like
Mm-hmm.
everything is just like just a finger touch away. Like, oh, I just got to hit this button to turn it on, or like hit this thing on my phone or whatever to like have the house be vacuumed.
It just automatically syncs up with the data core in your head to know exactly what you need. So you
just need to get a chip in and you're good to go.
You just need to get chipped, and then it'll just constantly be reading your desires so that it knows how to suit them.
Yeah, which is, of course, for your benefit. It's for
totally for
it's
your
good
benefit.
for you.
It's good. This is how it's supposed to be.
I think I missed it. I think I missed a bit, or maybe I forgot it from last time. Who is Ezra's sister?
Oh, Ezra's sister is let me read it from my sheet here. I have a long lost sibling who does dangerous work for the corporation.
Got it.
So this is obviously the sister who basically handles open sectors, apparently.
Yeah.
And I need to give her a name, but I'll.
Because I was just gonna say that looking at just the Google image searches from Laura Wang, that sort of like her very like sharp and pristine like look also reminds me a lot of our hegemon.
No, the main designer, the one with the short haircut, that's what Ezra looks like.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that like Ezra has a sort of similar aesthetic in some ways to the perfectly created human, the Tilda Swinton. Just there's certain angularness about it that like I can see as being in common. So I wonder if maybe your sister is accepted to do all this work in part because of like sort of passing as corp, as fitting the corp aesthetic.
Yeah. Oh, salud.
I like it.
Yeah, and oh, what was the question again? We just got off on a tangent. I completely forgot.
No, it's okay. We were just establishing. I was just describing what is going on with your sister and the holographic news drone, and like it starts stuttering because it's not meant to broadcast as far from the city, and the drone just sort of like collapses near you, and it's just this flicker over and over again, almost like an animated GIF of your sister just turning towards you over and over again.
Oh, I'm just gonna look down at it, just smirk, and
I feel like.
Oh, go ahead.
I feel like this is like Tonyo definitely like seeing something fall like that definitely comes over to like try and help it.
Ezra's just gonna be like, it's not an animal here. It's one of their things, and they're just gonna thumb to the skyscrapers in the distance.
It still needs help.
Sure.
It's like, and Tonyo's like, it's your sister. Like, do we know this? Do we know that it's your sister, or is it?
Since we've talked before, so I probably stated that I had a sibling that worked and.
Okay, but I wouldn't recognize this person specifically as.
Yeah, because it's a long lost sibling. So.
Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah.
In which case I say, it needs help, and then I look at you and I say, it has a face.
It's a projection.
Yeah, Antonio's like, it's still a face. And like tucks it under his arm and like pats it a little, and it's like, I understand these things are complicated.
Right.
I feel like it's not complicated at all for Ezra. Like, that's a piece of junk now. I don't care about it. I love it.
Oh, and I think her name, I don't have a last name because, like, ask me for her first name. It's hard enough as it is. Her first name is Effie, so it's Effie. So nice. I need to put that in the thing.
Add that to the NPCs list.
Yes. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Sorry, I tend to.
Jamie is on it.
Yeah, Jamie, you are one composed facilitator. Every time you're like, oh, there you go. There we go.
There it is.
It's in there.
Yep.
And yeah, what pronouns does Effie use?
She, her.
Okay, let me just type that in. Also,
Ash,
please.
is Tonio going to bring the fallen drone to measure to repair, or fun?
Ooh, yeah.
Like, are we okay to move on to that?
I don't know. I'm just curious. I'm fine with that, but I also don't want to. You know,
I think Ezra's gonna be like
see
it and like see you like pet it and be like, so what are you gonna do with it?
I'm like, well, at the moment it's suffering, and I think I like unplug it, right? Like I like turn it off, right? As like a like you break something's neck. I'm like, and I'm like, don't worry, it'll get better.
I wasn't, but okay.
And yeah, and I definitely like is Measure's here and like feeling a bit shitty, right?
Yeah. Measure is like nearby, right? Like I don't think they are here because it's at like you're at the actual festivities, but you know that they're like around the corner. Like we're not that far apart, right? Measure is easily reachable.
I think I think I like look at. I'm like, I think I'm going to take it to Measure. They're pretty good with these things. It's funny they're not here.
Yeah, and I think they were supposed to be here. Like they were supposed to like set up some fireworks or something like that. They had some kind of like they had some like official duty that someone else had to take over because they were back. And I was not saying it, but I was losing track of time and focusing on the details. Measure was just getting lost in thinking about Alon and our home and how to get back, and lost track of time. Maybe it was hiding.
I think yeah. I like make the point of like saying to Ezra like, are they here? I thought they were going to be here.
Do
you know where they are?
Be. Maybe in their workshop. Like where else? All
right.
Yeah, we can check there.
Yeah. So, I head off to the workshop and like knock and like poke my head in through like a broken window or something.
Yeah,
like,
right. I feel like there's like zero security on this. There's like it's like I think it's almost like pull back like what looks like an old tin roof away from the wall. It's not a door. It's just like a leaning piece of sheet metal.
That's where my brain went.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you just sort of pull it back and come in. Right there's like at most you could like maybe we could put a chain over it, but we haven't. So yeah, it's basically hidden by obscurity, security through obscurity. It's not.
Yeah.
Sure at all. So yeah, I think you find Measure and
I still not.
Oh, okay, you do. That's great because I think it kind of pulls Measure out of the reverie, and they're like, oh, and I think that's when they realize that they've missed the time, and so they kind of like pat Alan on the they pat him on the shoulder, and they say, and like I think he's hooked up to some sort of like primitive kind of like dialysis type machine, like there's something kind of keeping him stable. And so I sort of pat him on the shoulder and say, I forgot the time, I have to run, which is totally not a Measure thing to do. But and so they meet you like at the door, like and like it looks like they've grabbed a jacket, like they're
yeah, I think
I missed the fireworks.
I think before you get the chance to say something like that, Tonya is like Measure, you're very graceful today. I thought it was very very subtle, the way that you encouraged like the way that you encouraged Sam to step up and manage the fireworks themselves.
I think we see some like kind of pulsing on the visor, on Measure's visor, and they sort of like their shoulders relax and they step back to let you in because they were like charging out. They step back to let you in, and then they say, and they go like they're hanging up their coat and they're looking away from you, and they say, you know that isn't true, Tonio, but it's a very thoughtful interpretation.
Well, things worked out in the end.
I'm glad to hear it.
And I'm like, I'm just sad you didn't get to see the ones that Sam made.
I'm sure they were spectacular.
It's like there was one in the shape of a piñata, and then the piñata exploded.
I mean, that seems on point.
It was very fascinating.
And they kind of cock their head down to look at the drone that you have under your arm.
This one's not feeling well.
I think that while the table that Elon is maybe kind of in a corner, it's a little darker. Like there's like that's like it's like the medical tent section of this, but there's definitely like a workspace area, and like Measure sort of puts a hand on top of it and grips the little grooves of it and sets it down gently on the workshop, and they look and say, I could use it for parts, or I could send it back to the city.
It honestly needs to go back to the city or be parts. There's nothing else you can do with it.
And I think Measure can see where you like, disabled it, and I'm like, I could repair it and send it back. And sort of looks to you as like, destroy it and scrap it for our benefit, or help it on its way. These feel like very Tonyo questions to ask.
I think Tonyo is like already like digging around like other scrap and things in the thing.
Yeah.
And like comes up with like maybe like I think like a Furby or something. And it's like, oh, this has got a camera in it. That'll help. And like just goes over and starts trying, and like clearly has no idea how to do what they're doing, but they're clearly trying to work out how they can use the Furby to help fix the drone.
Right.
One, post-apocalyptic Furby is scary as all get
Terrifying.
out.
Yep.
It survived thousands of years.
Oh god, no escapes. Two, I think Ezra is just like watching. I think they walk in, but they're staying like in the doorway, and they're just like sort of like arms crossed, just watching this process. Not saying anything, just watching.
Okay. I would like to do a week. I would like to make a week move.
Sure.
I have a move that says design something beautiful and terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get this ball rolling. I think Measure says, Tonyo, if you'd like to send it home, I'll repair it. And I mean, this is like a news droid, but like you've given it like a camera, or like you want to put on the camera. I'm like, okay. And I think I'll like wire it up for you. And I'm looking at you being like, we're going to give it eyes so it can see its way home. Is that what
I'm
you
like,
is?
Yeah. And I'm definitely like, I say, so it can find a home.
Okay.
Obviously.
I think Ezra's just looking at Measure, because I think Ezra and Measure both know like where this droid came from.
Yeah,
just
we totally know where it's taken. It's completely
Well,
corpse
I mean,
droid.
like, it's not like Tonyo doesn't, right?
Right.
He knows what a news droid is. He's just, yeah. I think you've seen him do this before, where like corporate things aren't necessarily bad; they're just doing bad things.
Right. And Measure's in a particularly kind of fragile emotional state right now, where they are really
Tonyo is
reticent.
not picking up on any of your emotional cues.
They're really reticent to hurt anyone, especially a friend. So if Tonyo really wants this to happen, they care more about that in this moment than they do about the fact that they're definitely creating a danger for everybody. Because when they equip this news droid with a camera so that they can find their way home, it completely sees all of us and where we are, and it can completely report all of that, which is the part that I think is beautiful and terrifying. Oh, that's the terrifying part. The beautiful part is that I do think I give this thing a bit of sentience, right? Like it's not just okay, it's a repair droid. Like that when Measure works on something, they infuse part of themselves into it. And there's a little bit where he looks up at the eye and the eye looks up at him, and it's very Pixar cute, right? Like it's like, oh, we're looking at each other, like, oh, you're alive. And just like we saw the ribbon cutting thing of like the new sector, right? Like this is like a new life. It was like an inert news droid before. Now it's like a creature. But it's still owned by the corpse, and it's still probably going to go back to them, and it's still going to probably show them that we are where we are and who we are and all that. But yeah, but now it has this cute little Furby eye, this little camera mounted on it, and and yeah, and it kind of and Measure sort of taps it, and it kind of like hovers up, and then starts doing its diagnostics and scanning everything. And they're inclined to just sort of like let it out the door to go fly to find its new home with its new sort of newfound sentience, if that's what will appease Tonio. They sort of look and they say, it's free now. It's free to make its own choice.
I would like to spend the token I just earned.
Okay, cool.
For helping the Duende to create or fix something.
Yes, yeah.
To give someone the gift of faith. And I'm trying to decide. It sounds like I don't need to give the gift of faith to Measure because the Measure's already there.
I don't think in this maybe Measure in other times would be harder to move, but I think Measure is much more along the lines with you than Ezra is right now. So yes, if you're wondering who to inspire.
In which case, like I go over to I like take it in my hands, and I like take it over to the so like just like outside the door, and I like sit down in the gutter, and it's trying to like fly off, right? And I'm holding it with it.
It's
right?
It's like a bug trying to fly away. With
and I'm like holding it, and I introduce it to like a little god to guard it and to look after it. And I'm giving it religion, right? I'm giving it nice. Like I'm giving the robot like I'm like this is this is soft rain puddle. It's going to be your friend. It's going to look after you, and you're going to look after it. And so every time that you look down from the sky with your eyes and you see yourself in the puddles, you'll know that it's looking after you.
I love that. Not only did you give it sentience, you gave it an understanding and complex.
You gave it purpose.
Purpose.
Yeah. And then I'm like, yeah, and then I'm like, I hope you find a nice, safe home, and like let it go.
And so you were connecting it to the little god of puddles, is that right? Like
the little god of puddles.
Yeah. And nice. I kind of love the idea of as it flies off, it kind of goes down below, it starts looking at the puddles, it starts scanning it. And for a moment, you see a reflection of this small childlike being sort of reach out through the water and touch the drone for a moment. And you know that the drone has become the first knight of this little god. As it sort of like drifts off, and like you can see that the droid is picking up like through its sentience, it's learning how to record things. So it's picking up voices in the festival, and it's learning how to talk in its own little voice, but it's all just little gobbledygook at the moment as it drifts off.
It's a horrible Furby face.
With a horrible Furby face.
You called it cute. I was like, oh no, please no.
I felt very Johnny Five about this.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Yeah.
I think on that note, that's a good place to take a short break first before we get into the rest of the game.
Great spot for it. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
As this little Furby face just like disappears into the night.
Wow.
Right. We'll see you all in a few minutes. Take care.